Welcome to Tech Talk Nation, talking about the latest tech, industry news, and hot topics. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Visit our website at techtalknation.com.
Good morning and welcome to Tech Talk Nation. I'm your host, Matt Fitzgerald, and we have a wonderful show for you today. We have a bunch of cool topics that we're going to talk about. We're going to be talking about Apple's new AirTags, a bunch of news with Microsoft and their related entities. It's been a big week for Elon Musk here, so we want to talk a little bit about that. And we have a really cool story from Disney about a cool invention that they've been working on. We'll have a very good discussion on that today. And we are joined once again by two regular contributors to the show. We got Matt Grislow and Ryan Eastman here today. How are you doing, guys?
I'm doing well. Ryan, how are you?
I'm doing pretty good now. How are you?
Great. We are doing great. Today is also a very special day for a lot of people out there. It is Mother's Day today. So before we get into our stories, we just wanted to give a shout out to all our moms, tell them we love them, thank you for all they do for us. And it really is great that it is Mother's Day, and we try to be nice to them all year. But today is a special day, and we want to give them the extra special attention that they deserve. Isn't that right, guys?
That's exactly right. Happy Mother's Day, Mom. If you're watching this, sorry I couldn't be home this weekend. I'll be home next weekend. I also hope you got the flowers. I don't know if they got delivered to you. I'm going to be calling the company if you didn't get them. But happy Mother's Day, Mom. Love you, and hope to see you soon.
And I'll just say happy Mother's Day, Mom, even though you're not going to watch this because you don't know I'm doing this right now.
Nice.
I'll keep it a little shorter. She has no idea I'm doing this right now. So
Wonderful. Well, without further ado, let's just get straight into the stories today. The first one we got for you is about YouTube. They are now building their own video transcoding silicon. YouTube is now designing basically, this looks like a PCI card here that is solely dedicated to video transcoding. It's called the Argos chip, and it says up to 20 to 33 times improvements in compute efficiency compared to their old kind of optimized system here. I just think it's super cool that YouTube is going to be making their own hardware now for their specific stuff. I know Google has done this in the past, but not a specific video transcoding chip. So that is really cool to see. I'm not sure what your guys' thought on that.
I don't know if this is coming 100% out of the blue. I think, I forget if it's 1 or 2 years ago, Google's Pixel phone had basically a fancy custom chip for dealing with I think it was usually pictures that it touched up, but it could be used in a lot of different things. This is probably, I'd bet, like a branch off of that.
Definitely.
It's like neural or something in like the Pixel 3 or 4. I can't remember which one. But yeah,
I think it's
a good idea. No, go for it, man.
Oh, I was gonna say I think it is definitely cool, just to piggyback off of what Fitz said. That YouTube is kind of, and I guess in a way Google is starting to make more hardware, and more specifically for their video platforms. And Google's definitely gonna be getting a boost from this.
Oh, absolutely. They're going to save. I can't remember what the prices they pay for all the servers to host all their content and transcode everything.
Yes, that the price is yes.
I feel very comfortable saying it will save them plenty over $1 billion in the long run.
I'm not sure if it would be that much, but
I'd say probably millions.
Over the course of 3 years after they start producing these, you don't think it'll save them $1 billion?
I mean, they run several data centers, but it's definitely one of those things where it's like Google keeps all this stuff under wraps, like how much of that is for YouTube specifically.
Yeah.
And how much of this, like the area that I think it's really going to optimize in a lot of cases is their CDN, their content delivery network, where they're going to have these end nodes where they're actually going to transcode that content for you, have it dynamically transcoded as opposed to just basically you retrieving X file. So I don't know.
If I'd be stunned if they don't spend somewhere on the course of $5 billion worth of processing power every year
Oh,
just to transmit video.
I am sure it is just stupid high. It's just one of those things where
To save $1 billion, all they got to do is, you know, it wasn't 33. How fast did they say? Did they say 133 or 33?
33% faster.
Okay.
Ooh.
I'm going to play
20 it
fast
says
and loose.
20 to 33 times improvement in compute efficiency compared to our previous optimized system, which was running software on a traditional server.
Yeah, I'm going to play
So-
fast and loose with numbers real quick and just say they spend 5 billion transcoding a year. Let's divide that by 3, and then that's how much they save every year after this is implemented.
I mean, yeah, you do have a point on that. I mean, who you don't know the full numbers, but yeah, it's a great improvement. I definitely see them making a great effort to get this work done. So, um, yeah, it'll be really interesting to see what comes out of this, and hopefully they can make even more specialized hardware for some of their other applications as well, like maybe some of their voice stuff or anything like that. So who knows?
What if they start selling
knows?
this to like Android phone designers?
Hmm. Definitely. Who knows?
I don't know how much help it would be, but
Speaking of processing incredibly large amounts of data, the next article here that Ryan sent in was Facebook. Facebook doesn't want to remind you how much it knows about you. And a recent series of Instagram ads were banned for being too honest because the truth will scare people.
Oh,
Basically, I was reading a little bit about this, but basically, people are putting out ads that just uh, basically target your exact demographic, like literally your exact demographic here. So, you want to add a little more on that, Ryan?
yeah, absolutely. If I'm remembering this correctly, I looked at this earlier in the week. It was advertisements sent out by Signal, which is basically they do end-to-end encryption on like messages you want to send between people. They thought it'd be a good idea to put out the ad and be like, "Oh, hey, here's how much they're tracking about you. Here's basically all the ad does is it shows you what tags they used to find you specifically.
Exactly, and you're right. It was
They-
Signal.
All the stuff about you that your interests that they know about in order to target you with these advertisements.
Well,
And that's their advertisement for using their service. It's great.
right. And that is a brilliant idea. The one thing that I do want to say too is like some of these companies are getting a little more willing, like they're actually going to show you this, because even on YouTube now I've noticed up at the top it shows me my interests. Like it'll show me the things that I'm interested in. Like it'll show engineering, SpaceX, how it's made, like all the stuff I love to watch on YouTube. And it's just interesting. And with Signal doing this now, they're basically kind of I I don't know what it's like, what it kind of says. It's like Facebook runs their own thing. They can do that whatever they want. And these ads literally are just saying this is what Facebook knows about you. And they got banned because of that fact. So I don't know.
I think I don't know. I think these companies should probably be forced to follow the rules they set. So they have their terms of use. If you're not violating anything in their terms of use, why are they allowed to ban you?
Very true. I mean, I could spend $10 million putting out an ad to people who like cheese that are based in Wisconsin that just say, "Hey, you like cheese." Like I can do that. It's just I feel like it's one of these things where you're kind of getting this argument of two competitors kind of going like, "Hey, X platform is bad," and then other platforms like, "No, we're not. We're just going to control what you see." So I don't know. And
Yeah.
having enough basically money and manpower to be able to actually in a way spit in the face of the hand that feeds you, or slap away the hand that feeds you. I mean, That takes a little bit of courage to do, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm still just more annoyed. It's like, you set the rules, they didn't violate your rules, and now you're gonna ban them? Really?
Right.
It's interesting. I mean, yeah, they're going to set rules and people will follow them or break them, and the company will choose whether or not they want to, act on those people. I think at the end of the day, though, they're just trying to protect their own best interests. So if it's good for their company, they'll allow it, and if it's not, then they won't.
Right, and it's definitely one of those things where in the terms of service, there's always some sort of clause or something like that, basically that just says we don't like it, we won't help you, pretty much.
Yeah, that's
Like
yeah,
at the
whatever.
discretion of the platform provider, so something along the lines of that.
Terms of service are getting, I shouldn't say they're getting, because they've never been easy to read or understand. I mean, you could fill, 3 binders with one company's terms of service, right? So to be able to understand them and to know that you're violating, their policies based off of your terms of service after you did something is kind of silly. But I feel like there's gonna come a point, I don't know when, but there's certainly gonna come a point where there's going to be I'm sure a big legal battle over terms of service and how they're all worded and how they need to be not dumbed down, but condensed or simplified, because they get so complicated and convoluted that people just don't know what is what and what's okay and what isn't. And then when a company comes back and fires back and says you can't do this based off of our terms of service, it's like trying to find a needle in a haystack as to how you violated their terms of service, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And that legal battle is more likely to take the form of what's called it's Section 230. I can't remember the name of the law.
The Telecommunications Act.
Something like that.
Yeah, the 1991 Telecommunications Act, I believe.
That sounds about right to me. Basically, it's where you're allowed to be a platform and not held responsible for what people post if you only moderate content for you have very special specific ways you're allowed to moderate content and still not be held liable for what gets posted. And that'll be the battle that eventually takes, I imagine.
Makes sense.
See. I think, is it potentially the Communications Decency Act of 1996, maybe? I know they call it the platform shield.
Yeah, it's just typing ASMR now.
Okay.
Do you guys like ASMR videos?
Yeah, it is the CDR. No, or CDA. No, I hate them.
I don't either. I don't understand that.
Yeah.
I don't understand a lot of things. Gaming culture is another that I really just don't understand.
Yeah, it says Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act. So,
yeah,
there we go. The more you know. Speaking about communications decency, moving on to the next article we have here. I found this article through Ars Technica this week, basically saying the biggest ISPs paid for 8.5 million fake FCC comments opposing net neutrality. This is back in the days of good old Ajit Pai here running the FCC, and basically saying that 18 million out of 22 million comments were fabricated, including pro and anti-net neutrality submissions. And if you aren't familiar with net neutrality, basically net neutrality is the stance in which an internet service provider cannot charge you more to be able to access certain websites or prioritize the traffic of one website over another. So you can't buy the Netflix and Hulu pack that only gives you access to Netflix and Hulu and not all these other things. It's a lot of other stuff. But basically, long story short, a bunch of ISPs got busted for hiring companies and submitting fake comments against net neutrality, which would in turn give them more money by being able to charge for different things. So this is a hot topic. It still is a hot topic. I don't know what to think about it. I don't think it's right that you're going to have these mega corporations, even on both sides, trying to influence the way that politics are working. I mean, you have lobbyists all the time, but I feel like this is lobbyists are lobbyists, but this is representing the normal person.
Yeah, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong too, but I believe I read in the article that some of a portion of those those comments and things were real people's names that they were using. Weren't just, fake generated names. At that point, I do not like, if that is, my name being used, I don't like to be used as a political pawn or a pawn in, big tech scheme or, whatever you want to call them, big broadband scheme. I want to be left out of it. I don't want to be a part of it. I have my own opinion, but I do not want to be, without my own permission, implicated in something like this. So that's what makes me a little more fired up about this.
It does say in the article here, it says more than 7.7 million fake comments supporting net neutrality were submitted by a 19-year-old college student in California pursuing a degree in computer science. That is interesting to see. But it says, unlike the broadband industry, efforts described above used the names and addresses of real people without their consent. So this person went around that and did that. But it did say that the people, like the ISPs, did make up the stuff. So
Okay.
Yeah, that computer science kid almost certainly wrote like a script or a bot or something just to send them for sure.
it's pretty easy to do.
Oh yeah.
Ryan and I can probably whip one up real quick,
You
but
have to get around some of the other annoying things, but like, I mean, anyone who is looking at the whole like, no one could get a console last year because botters were just buying it. Like, it's not that hard to get around.
right. And the other thing too that I just found interesting and slightly concerning too is the fact that there was some way they got around anti-spam like controls. Some way you would think that there would be something that would prevent all of these similarly worded or very common seeming responses into the system. And if you only have a couple of big players that are actually influencing this, it leads you to a little bit of a like it's a conundrum there. I don't know. It's just me. Like the normal person who's going to submit a real comment is going to get buried in the miles and miles of spam.
Tied into that though is sometimes when you have these kind of campaigns going on, like real people, like people will put out like, hey, here's like a template you can use to like talk about it.
Oh,
So
fair.
those can very easily get swept up in that as well.
Yeah, like the fill out this form and it's going to automatically send an email to your congressman to do X thing.
Yes.
Right.
I mean, one could theorize, but who knows if this is what they're referring to? Like, who knows?
Yeah. I'm very willing to believe that a computer science kid was just like, yeah, I'm going to send a few million comments. Like, yeah.
Right.
Fair.
But that still seems less egregious than all the companies like trying to fake it.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of internet service providers. I don't think they have the best interests of the people in mind. I think they're much more worried about profits. I mean, they are a business, I understand, but at the same time, internet has become a very, very, in my opinion, a utility to this point. Almost as important as your electricity that you get to your house. So
Right.
Yeah. I don't know. Part of the issue is the laws we have are a little wonky. It's like people are cut up into sections that like you can't get another internet provider. So
exactly.
Yeah.
Operate as a free market like you'd expect it to.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So the next kind of topic we want to kind of cover here is the new fiasco surrounding AirTags. AirTags are interesting new product from Apple, and basically they're getting a lot of flack for kind of like a couple things going on with them. So we got this next article here. I forget who submitted this one. I think
I did.
Okay, Grislow, you put in this one. AirTag stalking is frighteningly easy and multiple problems were identified. I did not get a chance to read this one before the article, before the show today. Could you kind of give a little synopsis on it?
Yeah, it was a pretty short article, but it just kind of was about this guy and his coworker, and they wanted to test, the capabilities of AirTags and how, I guess, stalker-proof they were, and found that you really can very easily do some pretty nefarious stuff and it'll slip through the cracks. So what they did was they had one of the guys had a bag, and his coworker slipped an AirTag into his bag and had it in there for 3 days, and was able to very successfully and very precisely track his location around San Francisco, I believe, is where they were doing it. He had paired it with his own phone, the guy with the AirTag, and the guy who he was tracking had his own phone. And the way the AirTags work is after 3 days, I believe, you're able to pick up on another like unfamiliar AirTag, and then your phone will get a notification based on that like odd device, the foreign device. But what they found was that it really doesn't matter. That 3 days doesn't matter, because for those 3 days, you're able to very, very, very precisely track these tags. And so Apple's claims of having all of these rules and systems in place for anti-stalk methods aren't really foolproof, and they're not really well thought out.
So if I'm understanding this right, basically the the stalker put a tag into somebody else's bag and then stalked them based on their tag.
Yeah, yeah, and these guys agree to do this. They knew each other, but it basically simulates the event where you would have a foreign actor or a stalker, a stranger, drop an AirTag into your bag, into your backpack, whatever, in your car, and then be able to really track you. They're basically proving that Apple hasn't really made a good case against stalking and for these AirTags in terms of safety for stalking. And another thing that they mentioned in this article that I think is interesting was that they said that like domestic abusers typically live with each other, and so if you're trying to track people who are moving around, it really doesn't work, because they're always typically close to each other. So even in that case, in that special scenario, the AirTags don't really hold.
Interesting. I don't know
So yeah,
I don't know how I feel about that.
yeah, and it's again, it was one of the biggest claims, and some of the concerns they obviously had to address, right, when they were creating a location tracking hardware. I think they need to think it through more. I think maybe they have to have some other special like coding cases in the system so that you can't really do things like that. I don't know how to do that. I don't really know how you fix it. At least off the top of my head, I'm not really sure how you fix it.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure either. Any thoughts on that one, Ryan?
I mean, I can talk about solutions, or I can. It feels bad, but almost defend Apple. I kind of don't want to.
Oh,
One of the
wait a
solutions.
minute.
It's more like a parallel thing, but like, I don't know. Just as far as a solution, like if you're in contact with an or an AirTag for more than say 9 hours, and it's the same one, and it's relatively close, that would basically, I think, be a case to throw that flag at that point at 9 or 10 hours, because I mean, you work with someone for maybe 9 hours a day. So if that tag's been following you around for 10 hours, that's kind of sketchy.
Yeah. I think it's actually that's a fair amount of time.
That might be the simple fix, is just to update the software on that.
Right.
The kind of parallel thing is that, I mean, for years, people have basically been taking phones and just tossing them in people's bags and cars and then tracking people that way as well. This is just more, it's just smaller and more subtle.
Yeah.
I wonder if there's any way that you can use the proximity of the device to the AirTag, and they just kind of see it bouncing like closer and farther and closer and farther, with that kind of cutoff of like maybe 15 hours or something like that, to where they're going within a mile or two of or maybe not a mile, but like maybe like 800 feet to like 300 feet or something like that. Like one of those things where there's a very specific range of distance that somebody would usually hang around. But I don't know. I mean, that's definitely, you bring up a really good point. People have been doing this for a while. If they're gonna find out how to, they're gonna find somebody. They're gonna find somebody, just in a different way. It's not right at all, but people. That's what
No, it's
has
not.
worked in
But
the
the point
past.
is, it's the problem with technology. It's tools, you know,
Exactly.
Yeah.
and then tools can be used or abused.
Right.
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 Well, the next thing that we have here is about Amazon. Basically, Amazon is trying to partner with Tile to take on the AirTags. And basically, some of the key points, thanks to CNBC for this little like TLDR at the top here. Amazon partnered with Tile and smart lock maker Level to beef up its mesh network of tracking. And the move will help Tile better compete with Apple, which people are expecting AirTags to take off. So,
Lord
I
knows why.
yeah, exactly. It's an Apple thing. Everybody knows why it's going to take off.
These
You
are
know,
your heroes. No hole for a keychain, really.
yeah, there is no hole. They do sell accessories to clamp it on or clamp around it.
Oh, whoop-de-doo.
So, I mean, I think the
Pay up the
interesting
money, or
thing
you
there,
can't put it on your keys.
well, actually, it's interesting you say that because there have been videos now where people have been finding like the best area to do it in. And they've been drilling holes
Yes,
into the air tags so
I
you can put
talked
them on a
about this when
keychain.
we talked about AirTags last week. Yeah,
Yeah.
I
But
fixed
I
it
think a
too in
very
like the first week.
yeah, I think a very significant kind of takeaway from this article though is that Amazon is helping Tile and using their own network to beef up and put Tile back kind of up to where they had been previously. Before, I don't want to say, was it last year or 2 years ago? I think it was this last year. Apple kind of redid their Find My iPhone app and now turned it into this bigger ecosystem of device tracking. And they're allowing third-party devices in. And essentially with their AirTags, they are creating this, this one product that already plugs into this huge network to be able to track your items or whatever you have it as on. And Tile's network doesn't even hold a candle to Apple's network with all of their devices and phones. And so now you bring in Amazon, you partner with Amazon, and you partner with all their Echo devices. You know how many people have Echo devices and their smart Amazon smart devices in their homes? Just that network alone totally puts them back onto like the level, I think, or at least close to the level that Apple's on with their Find My network. And one thing to note, I suppose, is that Apple is technically open to Tile or other tracking devices being added to their Find My network, similar to how they allow other smart home devices to be added to their the home network. I forgot what they call it, system. I should know what it's called because I have them all over my apartment. But I think it's really interesting to see how other companies are banding together with Tile and kind of putting it to Apple with this partnership.
You're very right on that. And the one thing that I find interesting, especially with something like this, is Apple, yes, they do this on their device, but by creating the AirTag, they are basically attempting a hostile takeover of another market here. They're basically trying to put Tile out of business. And
Yep.
Tile is trying to respond by, in a way, starting their own kind of Cold War, partnering up with all these companies, getting their arms together, and getting ready to fight back. So,
Oh yeah, and I mean, essentially now they've given their competitors two options. Option A is you enable Find My support on your devices, and you bring them into the Find My network, which then eviscerates the company's own device finding network. And so there's that option. Option B is okay, don't come onto our Find My network, but it's really not great if the company doesn't do that because they're going to lose out on a lot of the features that are available on the Find My network, and so then you can't compete because you don't have all the features the Find My network does, and then you die. Not only does
right.
your network die, but your product dies, and it's no longer popular at all.
Right.
So I think this is really, really good for competition, for competition's sake, that Amazon's coming in and partnering with Tile.
Yeah, people underestimate Amazon's like technology chops a lot because I don't think they realize kind of what goes on behind the scenes at Amazon. I've talked to some Amazon people before, and they'll say like, "Oh yeah, we have these like huge like secret facilities that are working on all these kind of like crazy ideas, and a bunch of them die, some of them succeed, and some of them you see in like I don't know if you guys remember the patents for like the blimps that would like send out drones to deliver packages.
Yeah.
That probably came out of one of those like basically think tanks that Amazon has set up.
Right.
So like people don't really process, I think, that Amazon has a lot of very high-tech stuff like kind of going on behind the scenes that they're slowly bringing out into the works.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely. One of the next articles we have here, we got, this is actually kind of a blast from the past right here. We got Verizon is selling Yahoo and AOL for $5 billion to the Apollo Private Equity Group and Apollo Global Management here. They're paying $5 billion for Yahoo and AOL. And we watched Saturday Night Live last night, and I think Colin Jost hit it right on the head with his joke here saying, hi, 1998 called. And I mean, I don't know how else to describe it.
Ryan, you want to take the first take here, since I kind of dominated the last one?
What's Yahoo?
Exactly.
Damn.
I forgot that site existed. I'm not gonna lie. I want to know who's dumb enough to buy it. I don't know how much money it brings in. I imagine not much.
It says the private equity group Apollo Global Management Inc. is paying $4.25 billion in cash for a 90% share in the media assets. Verizon will keep a 10% stake in $750 million of additional preferred stock in the new company called Yahoo. It says it struggled against Google and Facebook. That's all the stuff that says, and I don't have a Wall Street Journal subscription, so rip.
Yeah, I know they initially wanted to kind of spin it into like a media company, and sort of rival, Google and Facebook, and obviously that didn't work. And I think another important thing to note here is that they're selling both of these companies as a package at a loss. They paid, I think, total of about $9 billion separately, when you add both of them together between AOL and Yahoo. And I want to say it was 2015 and 2017 when they made the two purchases. So they're selling it at a loss. And I think they realized that they had to just sort of take a loss to be able to get something back.
Right.
Yeah, unless you have some kind of genius pivot on what to do with Yahoo, I mean, it's dead in the water for the most part.
Yeah, they haven't stayed relevant, and that's the biggest nail in their coffin. Like their homepage just screams 2005. Like whenever you log into their email, their inbox is very cluttered and not very nice. And I mean, I don't know about you guys, but like AOL, they shut down AOL Online or the live
AOL
messenger.
chat rooms.
Yeah, the chat rooms.
Yeah.
And that was the only reason I knew AOL. That was the only reason I knew it. Like,
I knew it for that brilliant tone that they used.
oh yeah, that too.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
You've got mail.
I mean, that's iconic, isn't it?
Yes. Yes, definitely.
To us, I bet if you asked anyone about 4 years younger than us, they wouldn't even know it.
Right.
4? I think that might be generous.
It might be generous. It might only be 2. We might be on the cusp of that one.
And we're not even that old. I'm assuming we're all 22, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I grew up learning a Windows 95 machine as kind of my first foray into computers, and I think I had gosh, what was it? I had an i386 for a while. That was fun. That was a lot of fun, but definitely one of those things where people, I feel like knowing the nostalgia and the the history of the internet through these two very big companies, it's 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 a it, it's kind of like sentimental for people in a way. I don't think it's $5 billion sentimental, but here
Well,
we
you still
are.
got a name brand to work with. So if you got some genius pivot,
Have at
maybe
it.
it works.
Well, I mean, hey, Xerox used to and started out as a big computing company. That's where a lot of, and correct me if I'm wrong, it's where a lot of the original stuff for the Mac came from, the Macintosh. So maybe they'll have some crazy pivot because now they don't really do computing. They're more of like a printing kind
Copier,
of business. Yeah. So
I mean, Kodak, I think it was last year as well, pivoted from like, oh, we're giving up on cameras. We're just going to make drugs now. And that
what?
sent,
Like
maybe not giving up
pharmaceutical
on
drugs?
Yeah.
Really?
What?
Yeah, you didn't see that?
No.
Does no one remember Kodak going up like 100% in a day?
No.
Don't trade. Despite all the talk we have on the show about Dogecoin and
absolute
crypto and all that.
Philistines, the lot of you.
Alrighty.
Despite all of our
Anyway.
talks about financials.
Anyway, next article we got here, speaking of shelving things, Microsoft is going to shelve Windows 10X, its Chrome OS competitor. Basically, they're, long story short, they're just giving up on making like their rival to Chrome OS and kind of realizing their own place in the market here. I mean, Windows 10 runs on a lot of things. It can run on ARM now, not as well, but it can. So, like, why reinvent the wheel? In my opinion, stay where you got your market. You're gonna solidify that market. Google's pretty much locked up that market, and like I don't want to be like, don't even like try getting into it, but like Microsoft would have to do a lot and not lock people down to their ecosystem or anything like that in order to make this viable, which Microsoft has a very hard time doing.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
I mean, honestly, I don't even like Windows as an operating system anymore. It's just like, I don't trust them to make it well on an ARM as well.
What are you, more like a Linux guy?
At this point, yes, I use it more. If it wasn't for like some of the games I play requiring you to be on Windows, I wouldn't use Windows at all.
I mean, there's always like Wine or something that could emulate it, but it'll run like 30
it's
FPS.
that stocks it.
Oh, never mind. Yeah.
And no, you'll probably get like 10 FPS short of what you get on a Windows computer. It's not bad.
Yeah. Another thing, Microsoft becoming somewhat more relevant. They're finally updating its 26-year-old icons from Windows 95 here. Updating all the good old icons that I think are real nostalgic and making them into nice new icons that are actually somewhat more like clean instead of the like pixels and stuff. I don't know. I still kind of have a soft spot for all these, but I don't know. They're also potentially going to be retiring their fonts, so that's another just side note there. But I kind of like the icons, so.
I had no problem with them. I don't really know why they needed to pour all kinds of time into updating them. And some of them, especially at the bottom right corner, I don't know if it was the power icon, the red with the exclamation point. Maybe it wasn't exclamation point. Maybe it was the power icon. A lot of them didn't even look different at all. Yeah.
A lot of them are very similar.
Yeah.
They don't look different at all. So, I mean, I don't know really if it's necessary, and times are changing, I suppose.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, who knows? Alrighty. Well,
yeah, you want to feel old? Ask someone like a year or two younger than us if they know why the save icon looks the way it does, and then explain to them that's a floppy disk, and then hear them go, "Oh," and then ask someone 4 years younger than us, and let them respond, what's a floppy disk?
I mean, 26 years is definitely enough time to update some icons.
Oh yeah,
definitely. Speaking of updating some icons here, we got Bill and Melinda Gates announcing their divorce, and
that is a horrible transition. Jeez.
I mean, you got Bill Gates
Infuriating.
and Melinda. They're kind of an icon. They started the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, basically eradicated malaria, basically. And long story short, they're getting divorced. Lots of money, gonna be arbitrarily half of lots of money now, and basically they are super rich, and now they're gonna both be still just arbitrarily wealthy, just less arbitrarily wealthy than if they were together. So
Yeah, I think they're going to be, I think they did come out and say they will still be working together on their foundation, which is a really big part of everything they do. If Mackenzie Bezos is any indication as to what Melinda Gates is going to be doing with her money, I'm sure she's going to be putting either a lot of it into the foundation or donating it to other charities. But yeah, it's going to be another. Someone gets rich really quick just off of a divorce, just as we saw last year with Mackenzie Bezos.
definitely. I don't want to dwell too much on that. Bummer their marriage didn't work out. It happens. They're still
Yeah.
arbitrarily wealthy. Nothing's changed.
I'll let us pass this over.
The next article we got Sony working on integrating Discord into its PlayStation consoles. That's going to be an interesting one. I'm going to be super interested to see how this works out. So,
Is it integrated into Microsoft consoles already or no?
So they did have there was a deal that they were trying to work out between Microsoft and Discord that did just kind of fall through within the last few weeks. So it's really interesting to see this news come off the heels of that deal falling apart between what would essentially be Discord and Xbox. So it's really interesting to see now they pivoted to having, instead of an ownership with another company, they would be doing more of a partnership and still having ownership of their software. But again, two rival, platforms, both having different bids. It's interesting to see them kind of prefer one over the other.
right. Definitely. You find anything about that,
Yeah.
Ryan?
Yeah, I was just checking real quick what the extent of it is. It's basically non-existent. You can't use it on the Xbox either.
Okay. Nice. Well, good for Sony, good for
So if
Discord.
if Sony lands that, that's genuinely a reason, I think, to get a PS4, just so you can talk to your friends who are smarter than you and on a computer.
I mean, I see where you lie here too.
I stand by that statement.
Nice. Moving on. Next story we got here is our arbitrary NFT story for every single episode we do here. The 2009 viral video "David After Dentist" was sold as an NFT, so it closed for $11,000. So, yeah,
Yes.
that's
And this is one of the first viral videos that hit YouTube back in the day. David After Dentist. I remember I watched this when I was whatever, younger, 11 years or younger, 12 years younger. And this actually is not the first viral video that's being sold as an NFT. I believe the Leave Me Alone Britney girl or guy or person did release that video as an NFT, and it sold for quite a bit of money. It was when it was converted from Ethereum to USD. At the time it was just over $11,500. To put that into context, what $11,500 can get you, with the same amount of money, you could buy 16 NVIDIA GeForce RTX 3080 graphics cards. You could get 23 PS5s. You could get 9,663 McChickens, or 21,200.53 Dogecoin.
I don't know what to do with this information.
I thought some fun statistics would make this a little more lively because, I mean, yeah, it's just the story is they sold a viral video as an NFT, and it is interesting to note that it isn't the first one. Like I said, the Leave Britney Alone video is already sold for way more. It was I want to say it was a few $100,000, as well as another viral video that sold.
Yeah, the Leave Britney Alone video made $41,000, and the Disaster Girl video made $450,000.
All right, so I was a little off with the Leave
But-
Britney Alone one, but yeah, no, I didn't realize that they were going to be selling these viral videos as NFTs. And I think at least from in terms of collectible, it's, I guess it's desirable. It is. It's a viral video, and I didn't think about it when we had been talking about this in previous episodes about what we would see, being sold as NFTs and being created as NFTs or shifted over into this market. So it's interesting to see this kind of starting.
Definitely. And I feel like we're just going to keep on pulling these stories up with X video sells for arbitrarily large amount.
Oh, believe me, I will still be sending in more NFT articles. NFTs are not going away. If this proves anything, they're not going away. I remember when we were talking about this, months ago now at this point, we're theorizing what will be sold as NFTs, what will be implicated in this new market. And since then, we've seen digital art. We've seen, what was it, 2 weeks ago, we covered the Emily Ratajkowski kind of situation where she sold an NFT of a picture of her in front of a picture of her that another artist owned. And so there was a lot of complications for that. So no, there's not going to be, there will never be a shortage of NFT coverage on this podcast.
I'm okay with that. I make money every time we do it. Turns out one of the cryptos that I've invested in, previously it was used mostly for basically doing partial investing for different things for different people. It apparently has blown up as a huge NFT token, so or NFT platform. So
for sure. Well, we're gonna do this because it makes Ryan money. So there we go.
No. But not only because Ryan's making money, we will also be covering this when he loses money.
I feel obligated to disclose this.
Yes. No, that's fair.
I bought it before this whole NFT craze when that wasn't its primary use case. All right. This is just
tacked on. There you go.
This was a stroke of luck for me, quite frankly.
Yeah.
I was doing okay in it before. I was up 25%. Now I'm up to almost I'm almost up 100%.
Nice. Very cool. Very, very cool. Let's see. Next article we got here. Zoom has special access to your iPad's camera. It says it's meant to help with multitasking, but other apps can't use the camera at that point. I wasn't able to get this one fully fleshed out here, but I forget who sent this in.
I think I did.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's interesting, especially right now with the lawsuit against Apple with Epic Games regarding the App Store policies and how we're starting to see a lot of the companies and businesses and apps that Apple does deal with. We're finding out more and more that they're starting to cut, or we're finding out that they've cut these companies and some of these companies special deals in terms of how much money they do have to give back to Apple with their in-app purchases that are less than the standard 30% that they typically charge. And now this is an example of another case where Apple's sort of working with one of these companies and apps and giving them special access specifically to APIs and to their hardware. They're, I believe, the only one of the video conferencing platforms, and that includes Teams and at least one or two other big video conferencing platforms that are the only one that can use that multitask feature, except for Apple's own FaceTime app. And so it's really interesting to see how they're working only with one of these partners as opposed to a lot of their other big partners and big apps on their platform.
Yeah, that's something we kind of touched on last week while you weren't here, is Apple kind of has the ability to pick winners and losers because because everything about what they do is so closed off.
Yeah, I mean,
source, everything's proprietary.
Yeah, and especially I guess with their App Store too. I mean, the term walled garden is not being thrown around without very without intent. It's very
every week.
Yeah. And actually, I think this is going to be kind of cool too going forward, especially with the new iPads that are coming out, the iPad Pros that have that big wide-angle camera and the new features where they're able to move with you and zoom in. So we'll see how that impacts it, and see if any other of the video conferencing platforms are able to now have that ability. Now that it's kind of come out that Zoom is the only other video conferencing platform that has that ability.
Definitely. We will have to keep an eye on that. Next article we got here for us, Sennheiser is selling off its consumer brand. They are selling out to Sonova, a giant in the hearing aid business. They're basically a Swiss holding company, and they're expecting to close it by the end of the year. It's going to be interesting to see what happens here, because I know Sennheiser is wonderful. I've used a couple of their headphones when I used to do some pro audio stuff. Like they're good stuff, but that's also pro audio, not necessarily consumer. So I'm hoping that sticks around. Oh yeah,
Right.
Ryan.
Yes.
That's what I'm wearing right now is a pair of Sennheisers.
There you go.
Yeah, no, in the article it does say that Sennheiser is going to retain ownership and going to continue with their pro line of audio equipment, but the standard consumer line is going to be going to this this audio the Sonova, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, the that company.
Yeah, their pro line will be like, that's already way out of most everyone's price range. I bet it'd start probably around 500-600 if I'm remembering correctly.
Yeah, they're expensive.
Now, yeah, what I have now is probably what they'd consider their consumer brand.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
sad.
Yeah, it's sad. I just hope that Sennheiser. I mean, you wonder if this is just one of their strategic moves of being like, hey, are we making the money off of this, or are we just making the money off of we sell 3-5 grand headphones like to X production company and that works? Like, I don't know. Apparently, it makes sense for them at this point.
Yeah, and they'll still be making money off of the naming and the licensing because they're still going to be under the Sennheiser name, and so they'll be getting paid royalties for using that brand in the name. When Sonova eventually does start cranking out these and selling them themselves.
Yeah, we'll see. I don't know if they're going to change production processes, if they're going to change what goes in them, what the audio quality effect will be. Because I know eventually, when Sennheiser starts mass producing certain parts, it gets cheaper. It filters down to their consumer headphones. I'm not terribly surprised they decided to sell it off. I mean, there's not a lot of people left who like to wear big headphones like I do. Everyone has these true. Yeah, everyone has gone towards wireless headphones, true wireless headphones. So I imagine their consumer brand has been taking hit after hit.
Yeah, I could see it. I could see it.
I'm one of those people that does use the wireless earbuds. So yeah. In fact, I'm probably going to be buying a pair soon.
Jacks anymore. So how do you use a wired pair?
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, do you think that this move could eventually? And I don't use Sennheiser headphones, so I don't really know much about them. Do you think this move, though, especially with this, what's the company? Sonova. They make yes. Do you think that sort of, because they're wireless devices, right? Do you think that's going to play into them sort of going into the wireless market more?
Yeah, I'd imagine that's where Sonova would try and take it. I mean, they have some experience with small batteries and all that, I assume. I obviously, I'm not a member of Sonova. I don't know what they're looking to do with it, but
hey, who knows? Makes a good business move.
End of an era. I'm wired into my computer through like a full amplifier, so I'm one of the holdouts who still buys wired headphones.
And I'd argue you probably have the best. You have the best audio setup of all of us, guaranteed.
Yeah.
No.
Yes.
I have a full microphone. I got the headphones running into an amplifier.
Exactly. Anyway,
I'm just doing this off an iPad that can't even rotate itself the right way.
True.
Gosh, again, having issues with this today. Hopefully I'll be getting a new webcam soon.
Nice. Very nice. Well, anyway, the next set of articles that we have are all about good old Elon Musk. He has had one heck of a week this week. And we're going to start out with the bad news and then move to the rest. So the first article that we have here is about Tesla's solar roofs. Basically, they got sued. Uh, it says after Tesla increased the price of a solar roof project by more than $30,000, homeowners explain why they have filed a lawsuit alleging breach of contract. Basically, uh, Pennsylvania lawsuit said Tesla was in breach of contract. Suit said it would seek federal class action status, and the increase was a significant disappointment. I mean, I don't know how to feel on this one. I don't think it's right if you sign a contract stating X amount and then you say, hey, it costs more than you said without clearly communicating that to people. Like whenever I create a contract with somebody, I say, hey, I'm not expecting this to go over, but here is the contingency in case it does. I will seek writing from you instead of just billing you 30 grand more than the contract is. So
I think there's a little more context that you definitely should be providing here. And one of those things is that this contract that was put together between Tesla and this homeowner was from 6 months ago. And they were promised, this valuation. I want to say it was something like 30 or 40K for their system.
it says
And then,
46.
6 months later, Tesla came by and was like, oh, by the way, we want to put this up to like 74K, increasing it about $40,000. And they're not happy with it, and so they're suing. That's definitely not very cash money of Tesla to be doing, and I think that's very well within the rights to take this into court, because I mean that they increased the value by over 100%.
I got no idea what the contents of their contract was, what any of that is. So I don't feel in a good place to comment on it for the most part.
Yeah.
Although, I mean, I will say this. I mean, Tesla has had historically, because I believe it's Tesla that owns it, the solar roof business. They've had a lot of problems since they acquired it in 2016 or 17. From rolling it out, the logistics to trying to get everything manufactured. They've had a lot of issues. I'm sure they're not the only customer that's been disappointed by their purchase or their contract that they set up. So I'm curious to see if there are any other customers that come out and attach themselves to the suit that's alleging that Tesla is trying to screw them out of money.
Who knows?
I don't know.
Yeah, we'll definitely have to see about this. Like Ryan points out, so many details in the air.
I'm not a lawyer.
Knows? Exactly. There we go.
President, and I said, you know what, this ain't for me. I'm going to go be an engineer.
Nice. Well, in other news, for Elon Musk and SpaceX and all his companies, SpaceX was successfully able to launch and land a Starship prototype, and it didn't blow up this time. So that is a great thing here. Yes, SN15 on Wednesday evening went up to about 6 miles and it actually landed. It was on fire after it landed. I actually watched this live. Super cool. It was on fire after it landed, and their little robotic hoses started attempting to put it out. But yeah, basically they were able to take care of that. The only comment I have on this is their video feed needs a fair bit of work on this, and I'll go into a little bit of details on that in a few minutes.
I mean, it's hard enough to get video of this thing as is, just standing on the dock. And then you add, you've got rocket fuel blasting everywhere and smoke and all of that, especially when the Starship eventually does land after it does its little land jump, the 6 mile high land jump. It's hard enough, man. We gotta cut them some slack. And also, they are not in the video photography business. They're in the business of making rockets and sending stuff to space. I don't think they should be committing a full studio here to the video quality. Although I will agree, there are definitely times where it does need to be upped. But I do find myself also watching these things and going, I'm watching a video game right now. This isn't even real. Like, I'm not watching an actual rocket go up in the air and in space and all of that.
Yeah, I don't have too much to say. It's just good job, SpaceX.
So here's the
Also
kicker,
that.
though.
Also
Yeah,
SpaceX.
wonderful job, like phenomenal accomplishment. Everybody who worked on this should be super proud. The one thing that I did find interesting, though, is that there's kind of chatter in the space community that the reason they were having all these video issues is they mounted a Starlink antenna, and that's how they were transmitting the video as opposed to any other ways they used to do it in the past. I'm not exactly sure how that worked, but they were saying that the video was going through Starlink this time.
So I'm going to, and I know you want to up the quality here, but this is my stance on it. Apple, as an example, has their big campaign shot on iPhone, right?
Mm-hmm.
They had this huge campaign about using their own products to market and sell their own products. I don't think this is a problem. And actually, you know what? Specifically for Starlink and that whole internet system, I think this only just proves that it works. And I think this is actually a big plus for Starlink and for SpaceX trying to sell this this system. It's proving to be more successful and even more capable than they initially had thought. And I actually think this is a big, big plus. So I would say continue on and make Starlink even better, because it's only going to prove that their technology works and works well. And in turn, it's only going to help them sell more of their own stuff.
Very true, actually. And
Sidebar, sure, shot on Apple and shot on a bunch of other phones have all, on multiple occasions, been shown to actually be DSLR cameras pretending to be iPhones.
Okay. But the idea, though, that you're using your own product to help all your other systems and things like that, using Starlink to be able to broadcast their own feeds, I think is pretty neat and really, really cool.
I definitely think it's awesome. In my opinion, though, what they
Down.
okay, in what I think is they just went like full send. We're just gonna make this like full send Starlink. We're gonna do all this stuff and kind of just took off whatever they were working on. I could be very wrong. This could have been doing Starlink since the beginning, but I just didn't know. In my opinion, what I think I would have done if it were me, I would have had the two systems there. Assuming it doesn't add weight or change the aerodynamics, yada yada yada, everything's normal. Um, but basically, what I would have done is I would have still had that legacy system there to be able to broadcast the video back just so you could have it. I mean, granted, they still have flight recorders and all that stuff on there, so we'll see a full edited video at some point. Uh, but in that real-time transmission, it's better to have the redundancy of both these connections. If one fails, you go to the other. So
I don't think they're quite worried about a video feed cutting out on a test for a land jump.
fair.
If the feed cuts out, it cuts out. They're not worried about. I mean, I'm sure they want to record this, right, for their own engineering purposes, to be able to go back and check to see if anything went wrong, right? They're not mainly and chiefly focused, though, on the video quality. They're mainly focused on, is this rocket going to go up in the sky, hover, and come back down without blowing up this time? And I mean, obviously they achieved that. I think that's more of their focus, as it should be.
Cool. Alrighty, well, in other news for Elon as well, he actually hosted SNL this weekend. And one of the other things that they put on here was he revealed he has Asperger's syndrome during the SNL monologue, which I thought was actually a pretty wholesome moment of this, where he was just like, "Hey, I think I'm the first guy with Asperger's to host SNL, or at least the first one that would admit it." And it's interesting to see, and I feel that as though that would empower the community with Asperger's to kind of shoot for the stars in a way. So I think it is nice that he was able to do that. In terms of some of the other things in the episode, it was pretty cringeworthy, but
Episode.
yeah,
So I'm assuming, Ryan, did you watch it? I know Fitz and I did.
I've watched pieces of it. I
So
enjoyed SNL mostly ever.
okay, I mean, Fitz, I want to hear your take on it. I know you said there were some cringy moments.
I mean,
While we're reviewing SNL here,
we're reviewing SNL on a tech podcast. Here we go. But
because Elon Musk is hosting, why there was no reason why we would talk about. I mean, really, we would not be talking about SNL if it weren't for him, right?
Correct. In my opinion, he did all right. He was able to be somewhat personal. I could understand him being very, very like a typical tech guy, right? Relatively reserved, very stiff, but you can also now kind of attribute that to him revealing he has Asperger's. But at the same time, I just feel as though a lot of the stuff that the producers or whatever, kind of some of the material they gave him was not 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 relevant, or just beating a dead horse. So
yeah, and I
honest.
think that's SNL kind of right now in a nutshell. I remember watching it when I was much younger, back with like Bill Hader and who was it? He does the soccer Apple show now. I can't remember his name. I mean, there's so many people in like 2010, 2011, 2012, that kind of era, that were so good still. So it is kind of disappointing to see it kind of be really, I have no better way of saying it other than like Gen Z-ified, which is one great example of that is the one skit they did with the podcast of that Icelandic girl and the Gen Z hospital, which was the first skit that they did, which was pretty bad.
That killed a little bit.
It was pretty bad. But I loved his opening monologue. I think that I think that him saying that he had Asperger's and him going on, this very, very public, also a very live comedy show, I absolutely think does prop up that community and kind of shows them that, you could do anything. You could send rockets into space. You can, build electric cars, and you can host SNL. The sky's the limit. I think that was really cool. A really, really cool moment.
I'll be honest, it doesn't come off to me as anything terribly new, just because of like, I'm used to engineers having those kind of things. Like, I've been in groups with people with autism. I've been in groups with people with ADHD. It's just like, this is kind of, you get a lot of people like that in engineering for the most part.
Very true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, preaching to the choir here.
Yeah, it might just be.
I was an enginener too.
I'm muting you. Talk over Ryan. I'm actually muting you. You're muted now.
I'm very used to that just being the case. Like, I don't know. It's that part isn't surprising me. As far as the quality of SNL's jokes and all that go, I don't think it was good then. I think SNL's been pretty much dead when Chris Farley died.
I don't like that argument that people make. What was it 98? People say I don't like that because, like I said, in the early 2000s or the 2000s, and then the 2010s specifically, I would say before like 2014, you had so many good, talented comedians who are now on to very successful careers, and these new people just aren't really there. Kenan Thompson, for whatever reason, is still on the show. I don't know why. He's really the only I would say he's the last person on the show right now, from the last good era of SNL, and he really wasn't featured at all in the episode. He's been on it for a long time. I don't expect him to stay on for much longer. But yeah, I think the episode was decent. I only watched it because of Elon Musk. A lot of good jokes with Dogecoin. I think they called him the Doge father. He had a lot of really funny jokes about him being like a simulation, or life being a simulation, him being like a lizard person. He played some interesting characters too. I think some were good, some weren't great. It's all a matter of personal opinion.
I'm of the opinion that that's like a sine wave because it is a skit comedy show. So like every year it's going up and down and up and down and up and down. But I'm also of the opinion that where that sine wave 0 point is centered at has been going down since then.
The high point's basically been going down.
Yes.
Yeah, it's so.
Wait, you gotta remember, there are some people that watch this podcast that aren't engineers that don't have, the math
Do I
background.
have to
know what that
fire
means.
up a paint window and show all this? Here, let me do that. Paint.
No. But Ryan, you do bring up a really good point though. And actually, this is something that a lot of people have been writing online about. That one of the only reasons they brought Elon Musk on for hosting was to make them relevant again and bring viewership back up. I don't know if it really worked.
So
I don't think the episode was any worse or better than any of the other episodes that have happened recently. I just think SNL's not been that great. They've had a skit here and there in the past decade that I've enjoyed, but on the whole, 90% of every show to me is complete garbage, and the other 10% is either good or mediocre at best.
The Chad one was pretty good. I like that one.
So anyway, to go back to your theory here, Ryan, I got my my wonderful drawing skills going. So you got a normal sine wave. Oh, come on. Let me undo that. You got your normal sine wave that's going kind of like this. So
It's more of a triangle wave, but I'll let it slide.
Okay, you tried drawing. But you got your high point, you got your low point, and you got kind of where it zeroes out at the beginning and the end. What your theory is basically saying is you have the axis here, you have your y-axis, and then you have your x-axis here. But there's kind of a third line here that's kind of going like this. Or excuse me, the other way.
The other way.
So started out here, heading downhill, and basically your sine wave is just kind of going like this around it.
Yeah, I think if you do look at viewership numbers over the last 15, 20 years, it does show that. An interesting thing to note is that it spiked, I want to say, twice in the last 20 years. The first was, I want to say, in 2008, and then the last was in 2016. And viewership's only really gone down for a long time. And I think you're definitely right. And I'm not sure if the Elon Musk-ness of the episode helped SNL stay relevant, but we'll see.
More eyes on the episode, but because I don't think the episode was good, it's only going to hurt.
Well, and I think, yeah, and I know there was a lot of people, or I shouldn't say a lot of people, but there were definitely things in the media where people were talking about how the cast members weren't going to perform and they didn't want to be on with Elon Musk because he's a big billionaire. Last time I checked, though, back in 2015 when they had Donald Trump on, no one really complained. And to me, that was some of the funny stuff, only because he was so awkward and so out of his element when they did the Hotline Bling parody music video, and he was doing his very best to sing, which is... I can't describe to you in words how funny it is to try and hear Donald Trump try and sing Hotline Bling, and then he's doing his stupid little this. Oh my god! That alone, that meme was hilarious. I think. But yeah, I don't really understand it.
Well,
why people would complain about it, because it's at the end of the day, if they really think it was gonna help viewership, I would think that it would be in the best interest of the cast members to support it.
Right. Well,
it would have boosted their viewership, I think, long term if it had been a really good episode. I'm saying it wasn't, is the problem.
Well,
yeah, no, I don't think, it takes a lot. I would take a lot for SNL's viewership to go back up, right? What you're absolutely right. One episode is not going to completely change the trajectory of their viewership. I do think though that maybe, yeah, I think you did mention, I think that it definitely could have brought more eyes to SNL, but yes, it's kind of a trash show now, and it sort of only improved more of that point in that episode.
Well, apparently people thought that way because Dogecoin plunged after Elon Musk was on SNL, and it went down, I think, crashed nearly 25% from 69 to 48 cents a few minutes into his show, and it basically was starting to crash. I'm not sure if that's indicative of SNL in general or just anything with that, but it's still down, and I don't know. We'll see.
I think in Weekend Update, in his little when his skit where he was supposed to be a financial analyst, I do believe he did have some more scathing remarks on Dogecoin. I might be wrong.
He mentioned I
but I know he
remember
did.
this. He quoted. He said, Michael Che goes, "So it's a hustle," and he goes, "It's a hustle," and like
kind of. I mean, Dogecoin's
Yeah.
been dead for a long time.
mhm.
They've stopped mentioning it. They've stopped giving it support. It's a dead coin. It is solely propelled forward right now by meme magic and nothing else.
Correct.
You're not wrong.
And apparently now you could also use it to literally launch a Dogecoin funded satellite to the moon.
To the moon,
So,
baby!
you mentioned meme energy. Here we go. This is the example of meme energy right here. Long story short, SpaceX is accepting Dogecoin and it will be paid exclusively in the cryptocurrency to launch an upcoming satellite named Doge-1 to, yes, the moon. It's a CubeSat meant to acquire lunar spatial intelligence using onboard cameras and sensors, being sent and paid for by a company named Geometric Energy Corporation and will be flown up in a Falcon 9 rocket in the first quarter of 2022.
Elon Musk only knows how to make memes better. I mean, he just took the Doge to the moon meme, and he actually is going to get Doge to the moon. I think that is, God, someone needs to add them to their like PR or their like social media campaign team, because he would do phenomenally.
Yeah.
But
like if in another life he could be a PR guy and do so well on social media.
I mean, learning like you take a hit on SNL with the Dogecoin stuff, and I mean he turned it around. I still don't necessarily like. They're trying to bounce back. They're trying to make the best of this, but this is just like furthering that meme. And I mean,
Yeah.
how can you not just think it's like so stupid and funny that this is actually going to happen?
That's all it is. It's a big meme.
I should clarify. I do have some bias against Doge because I've looked at crypto for a while. I've tried to read the white papers of all these coins and what they're doing and how they're accomplishing them. And then Doge goes up 12,000%.
Just because.
Yes. I mean, you can't put that in any other words other than yeah.
That's all you
exactly.
Right. Well, on the bright side, if you invested in Doge before, here's how much you would have. Basically, long story short, this was before the crash that happened, but basically, it it was gosh, what was it? I saw the
This was
number
published,
here.
I believe, last Wednesday.
Correct. I forget what the article here said. 1,000 Bitcoin.
Go paragraph up.
Paragraph up.
There
This
you go.
one.
Yep.
You enjoyed massive gains. $1,000 Dogecoin purchase on January 1st, 2021 would be worth $121,052 at Wednesday's high of 69 cents. Obviously not as much now, but like, wow. And Ryan, I'm sure you have your feelings on this one.
Yeah, it's still. I've done all this reading and this work to try and figure out what should go up in the long term and all this, and then Doge go brr.
It's the best way of putting it, honestly. But
I love it. To the moon, baby.
To the moon. Or Mars, I guess. You can watch and hear NASA's Ingenuity copter zip around on Mars now, which is actually really cool. It was an awesome video to watch here. They actually could show you the video, and I didn't watch this one in particular, but you could just kind of like see it go, and there it is, wee. But there was one where it shows you like I think it. Oh,
is there a land in a takeoff portion of the video?
Let me see. Yep, there it is. It's taken off right there. Here.
Woo!
See? Right there. It's gonna take off. We
have drones on Mars, everyone.
But like it's just crazy to think about that and like just hear the surface of Mars. But um, props to JPL and NASA for that one. In
Absolutely.
other space news, debris from China's Long March 5B rocket crashed back to Earth in the Indian Ocean. I just actually watched a video about this, and I'm happy it didn't miss anything, or it didn't hit any land.
You're happy it missed
I'm
everything?
happy it missed everything. Clarification. Oh my gosh, I can't talk. Uh, but I'm happy it missed everything important. And it hit the water. There is actually about a 70% chance that it would hit the water just because of the composition of the Earth, and the way things deorbit. And if we had any one of my many aerospace buddies on here, they could give me a 3 hour um, presentation on why that happened and the way everything works. But I'm just happy that it didn't hurt anybody. It shouldn't have come out of, the orbit uncontrolled, but it happens. So
Yeah, and I do think an important thing to note here is that China seemed to have a very nonchalant stance on it and saying, "Oh, well, there's not a good chance of it, hitting anyone or going anywhere," and that's fine and fair, especially statistically, that it wouldn't. Problem with that though is that this is not their only rocket launch this year, and the fact that they have this sort of very nonchalant stance on it, I think, is a very big concern. Because yeah, while there's a 70 whatever percent chance of it not hitting land, there's a 30% chance of it hitting land, and with that, you have a 100% chance or some percent chance of it impacting someone. I think people have to be more responsible, and space programs need to be held accountable when they fail to sort of, follow certain protocols, or maybe there need to be certain protocols put in place so that stuff like this doesn't happen.
right.
Doesn't matter what protocols you put in place, China would probably ignore them anyway.
I mean, it's true.
That's generally their modus operandi with a lot of stuff. I think what probably happens, we'll just keep doing that, and maybe one day someone will get hit and will cause an international incident, and then maybe something will get done. But I think absolutely nothing.
I'd hope it wouldn't. I'd hope it wouldn't get to that point, though.
We'd all
Especially because this is not their only. I don't know what the number is. I know it's more than 5. The Chinese, I don't know what they're called. The program is sending up a certain amount of rockets this year. And this one, I believe, was actually for their new space shuttle, or their new space center.
Yep.
So there are going to obviously be more of those, and I think there's definitely going to be more eyes on China, and other programs, and more emphasis on the idea that we need to be more responsible when we're sending things into space, that if we're putting things in orbit, that everything goes right, that precautions are taken, that we think about these things before we do them, because they have real world implications. I mean, I remember looking at some of the flight paths, and it went, I want to say, as far north as even like the Chicagoland sort of, I don't know what it's called, the area, but like northwest Indiana near Chicago, where the lake kind of does this. I know that was one path. There was another path where it went around New York, and then tons across around the world, all the way down to like Australia, New Zealand.
The thing's moving so fast, it's so hard to predict exactly where it'll come down, and that's the biggest problem.
And not only is the speed a problem, but there are so many factors. I mean,
right.
the material it's made out of,
right.
atmosphere could change temperature. There's a ton of different factors. I mean, if some little space debris hit it at some point, because it was in orbit for, what was it? It's been in orbit for a week or so, right? So I mean, there are so many numbers of factors that could play into us. And I remember watching on I don't know if it was, or someone who works at NASA, talking about how kind of complicated this whole situation is, and how it's not so cut and dry, and they can't really pinpoint 5 factors or XYZ reasons why it'll land in one of these 5 locations.
Right.
It's complicated, but that's, again, a reason why that we need to be more responsible when we're sending things into space, and not just China, everyone, and not just, international programs or programs propped up by countries, but also, private companies like SpaceX.
Yeah, just land your own rockets.
Exactly.
It's easy. Just do that.
Stop dropping off pieces of your rocket. Land the rocket. Come on.
There you go. Some other cool kind of space stuff is actually the entire title of this episode. So the next article we have is Disney reveals its real lightsaber, and it looks extremely cool. And you got this little GIF here. I don't know. It's cool and all, but like, I don't know how I feel about that. It's not real, and it's a prop. I understand, but at the same time, like, it's there. You can't call it real. Basically, long story short, Disney showed off a first look at its quote real lightsaber, which the company is testing in April. And basically, what it would be is like a prop for people in the Galaxy's Edge area.
All they mean by real is that it looks like it would on a screen.
But this is the thing you have to remember. This is not. They're not billing this as a real thing, right? But also,
It's just
this
supposed
is
to
at
look like
Disney,
that on the screen.
okay? This lightsaber is as real as Mickey Mouse. It's as real as Donald Duck. It's as real as you want it to be.
I
And it's
mean-
for children. It's for children,
Yes.
all right? It's for kids, and it's meant for kids. It's not meant for you and I and Ryan to pick apart why it's not scientifically accurate.
I don't give a shit about
And
that.
we could talk about this in terms of so many other things that they have there, I'm sure.
Apologies.
And so many other things, right? But it's not real, and you have to put that aside. Putting that aside, it's not a legitimate plunging through, steel at however many thousands upon thousands of degrees Kelvin to maneuver it and work through the material. It's meant for kids' enjoyment. And if you can make that portion of it as real as possible, I think that's really cool. If I had kids right now, I would, and this thing was there, I would absolutely bring them and show them, because at least as a child, Star Wars was, I don't want to say formative, but I loved Star Wars as a kid, regardless of the sequel trilogies. I know you have gripes with it, Ryan, and honestly, I do too.
I'm getting to that.
But it's for kids, and it's about the wonder and imagination of the youth. And if you can make it as real as possible, it only adds to the wonder and amazement for little kids. And I would absolutely be so pumped up to see my little guy get so excited, or little girl, I guess, excited about a real lightsaber, because they weren't like that when we were kids.
I don't care about anything new that's getting produced in Star Wars, largely on the backs of these sequels. Yeah, that's really what it is. Those sequels are kind of I'm just not looking at anything new anymore from there. I just don't care about any of the new stuff. I will go back and just enjoy the stuff I like.
I agree with that. And I understand you have it for kids and everything. I think that's super cool and it's great. And you're making the kids all happy and everything like that. But I like burning things. So here is what, in my opinion, is a real lightsaber. And this is from the Hacksmith here. Insane guy. Basically, they built a legitimate plasma flame that I'm not sure if it's plasma, but long story short, it's literally a legit, you can melt through a door with it. In my opinion, that's real. But I don't know. That's just me. So
if you want to talk about real, though, that is and will be for a long time as real as it gets. That is also not quite an actual lightsaber. It's a proto saber, which is the first generation, or at least in the comics or whatever, a previous iteration of the lightsaber where it had to be plugged into a power source, and it was plugged into a backpack.
Got cut out by Disney, by the way. But anyway,
what?
Oh, Disney cut out every last bit that basically said we are not operating as if this is true. That's besides the point.
Okay, well,
What was I
regardless,
going for? I lost track of where I was going for now.
Something about
I mean, I
Star
was in the
Wars is
middle
science.
of speaking.
Yeah,
but
I was
go
going
ahead.
something. No, I'm cutting you off at the base. Go. Star Wars is science fantasy, not science fiction. It's like a lightsaber cannot exist, so who cares?
Yes,
Okay, good
no,
point.
it's yes, it's exactly the point. It cannot exist because the technology doesn't exist. I can't. No, I will say with certainty, it won't exist at least for a long time.
Yeah.
And
No,
yes, the closest thing we'll get is
the way
this,
that works literally cannot exist. It's the difference between something being science fantasy and science fiction. Science fantasy, they just kind of wave their hands and go, I don't know technology.
Yeah.
It's a genre thing. As far as the whole kids thing, man, those new sequels were so bad. I want my kids to enjoy something that's actually quality.
Well, there's going to be new, Star Wars projects and things like The Mandalorian are coming out. I really like The Mandalorian.
They've broken my trust.
What?
What do you call? I don't trust them to produce good products.
Do you not enjoy things like The Mandalorian?
I never bothered to watch it after watching those sequels.
Okay, well you can't say then. You cannot
yes,
say.
I can.
No. You can't say that they're not producing good content if you're not even going to watch the content. That's like saying I don't like ketchup if I've never had ketchup. That's not a valid...
Okay, hold on. Jesus, sorry.
Whoa. Okay.
Sorry.
Sorry.
I'm gonna have to bleep that out.
Yeah, sorry. It's been I'm just off of finals week. It's one of those days.
Hey
All
man,
is
I'm
good.
just trying
I go over
trying
the top when I'm talking a lot. I apologize.
I'm just asking for some logical arguments here.
Yes, and here is the logical argument, right? It's a business. When they stop producing things you like, you stop handing them money until they produce something better.
Right, but you saying that...
So I stopped handing them money.
Okay, but you saying that I don't like the new stuff, you haven't even seen all the new stuff.
Okay,
like,
but what you're asking me to fork over my money, though, is the thing.
Right, I see Ryan's argument here.
You're asking me to fork over my money after the last thing they produced was garbage, so I'm not going to hand them my money.
Yes, but
I am consumer, hear me roar.
Yes, but the statement of I don't like all the new stuff without even seeing or giving a chance to all the new stuff, that's a totally not valid argument. Like I said, it's like saying
from a consumer point of view,
without ever even having had ketchup.
From a reviewer point,
I don't like McDonald's.
If you're a professional movie reviewer, sure. If you're a professional movie reviewer, fine. That's the case. I'm a consumer. I'm not a movie reviewer.
I'm a consumer.
So if you stop producing a good thing, I'm not handing you my money anymore. Because you don't deserve my money. You haven't earned it.
I'm not arguing that that's not a fair position, because it absolutely is. But to say that everything they've made that's new is not good, but not having even seen all of the new stuff, that's not a fair argument.
I haven't encountered any of the new stuff.
Let's
hold up.
I haven't encountered any of the Mandalorian.
Whoa. Let's take a step back.
And that's for a reason.
So
because first off, I'm not going to hand Disney my money for a lot of reasons.
Sure.
Mostly to do with things happening in camps in China. But
and
that's
that
the biggest.
Has to do with Disney?
Yes, because you have to buy Disney Plus. You don't remember this? They literally were using inmates at the Wuhan concentration camp in Mulan. You don't remember this whole thing?
I'm not sure if I'm even aware. It still doesn't really feed in the argument of...
It's a reason. It's one of the reasons I haven't seen The Mandalorian.
Argument here, like our original discussion.
Well, it's one of the many reasons I don't have Disney Plus.
Okay.
So I can't watch it in the first place, first of all.
Okay, but then you can't say, I don't like any of the new stuff if you haven't seen all the new stuff. Or if you've only seen a portion of new stuff. You can say, I like movies.
So if you pull the if you pull the Mandalorian out, fine. We're just going... Whatever. I'll hold that in ambivalence. If you want to talk about sequel trilogy, I will hate sequel trilogy with you and beside you all day. I will hold the Mandalorian in ambivalence. Everything else they've put out, in my opinion, has been pretty much... Like, Episode 7 was like a B-, and everything after that, like, fail on every metric to me.
Well, are you going to
that includes Solo, that includes Rogue One.
But also things like Season 7 of the Clone Wars.
I haven't gotten around to that yet. I'm in the process of rewatching Clone Wars because that was actually excellently done.
See, I only watched a little bit of it, and actually, I remember watching the original movie, the Clone Wars, the animated Clone Wars movie.
We don't
Now,
talk.
that's
Okay. I thought you were talking about episode 2. It's like, ooh, that one's
no,
not well done either.
no. The movie. I remember watching that like when I was way younger, and that was like so cool because there wasn't a ton of new Star Wars at that time. I think it was.
No, there was none.
Was it after? That was after this.
That was post 3.
It was. Oh yeah. So all the new quote unquote new Star Wars stuff had already come out. And there was nothing else.
Yeah.
That was really cool. Only because that's all there was at the time.
Well, also throughout the show, it's surprisingly well done for like how a war operates, the politics that are going on behind it. It's shockingly like well done and adult for a children's series, essentially.
Yeah,
which is honestly the type of content I think you should produce for children.
So
I don't think we give children enough credit.
I think to put a pin in this, because we're being at that horse at this point. But to put a pin in it, I absolutely agree that the sequel trilogy was trash. In fact, I was incredibly disappointed when they brought J.J. Abrams in to save Episode 9, and really it was just like shoehorning a ton of concepts in with
let's bring Palpatine back.
It didn't make sense. But everything after that, and as far as I remember, The Mandalorian Season 1 debuted weeks before Episode 9 came out. After they were, let's say, done completing Episode 9, everything else that they've done has been received by the fans is pretty decent. And as someone who has seen The Mandalorian, I've really enjoyed it. I've watched it with my dad. You know, he's 51 years old. He saw the original trilogy in theaters. He loved that stuff. He wouldn't even give the sequel trilogy the time of day, and even the prequel trilogy. He only really showed that to us.
I'll be honest. Prequel trilogy, 1 and 3 work for me. 2's kind of exists.
Yeah, the only reason he showed it to us as kids was just to show us kind of like the completion of the arc. Like, okay, there's 4 through 6, and now 1 through 3, and that's it. But yeah, he absolutely loves The Mandalorian. In fact, I remember when we finished the first season with them, he's like, so when are they come out with the next one? And I had to say, Dad, it's going to be like another year. And he's like, another year? And I'm like, yeah, it's just how it is. And we watched season 2 together. We absolutely bond over it. It's really good. Their character development's decent. And how they make the show is pretty incredible. In your free time, I would recommend looking up, if you haven't already, seeing how they do some of the behind the scenes VFX. A lot of the scenes that they shoot are in this big like LED board room. And so they're doing this live image tracking, basically how you would do with like video games and stuff, like a first person video game, where instead of changing like where the camera is, they changed the background, and so the character is able to move like differently. And it's just a really cool and different way of shooting it all.
It really is fascinating, and there's a really good video on it.
Yeah.
Anyway, so
listen, I'm stuck on the outside of that because I can't imagine I'm ever going to buy Disney Plus, largely on the backs of the fact that, like, oh yeah, we're basically collaborating with concentration camps to produce some of our content. Shh.
I mean, definitely.
I like Baby Yoda.
And on that note, we're going to close out for today. Thank you very, very much to Matt and Ryan for being here with us, for your insights or whatever.
Love you long time, Ryan.
Or whatever that was. And
also, yes.
And thank you guys for your collaboration today, and happy Mother's Day to all the moms out there. You're doing God's work, and you guys
Sorry about my foul language.
y'all deserve a year as opposed to a day, by the way.
Honestly. So with that, thank you guys so much for tuning in today, and tune in next week for another episode of Tech Talk Nation.
Thank you for listening to Tech Talk Nation. Tune in next week for more discussion on the latest in tech.